OBJ provided a reminder that he still has something in the tank. Third straight game with a touchdown after having 7 touchdowns total in his entire tenure with the Browns. He's got 3 in the last 3 games. And having to account for him, having to worry about him, having to pay attention to him, even though that was a fairly simple little play there for the touchdown, his presence makes it easier for some of these other guys, Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp with his huge night. And Beckham's numbers aren't off the charts, but they're enough to make a difference for the offense.
Yes, no doubt about it. And you see the tweet here from Justin Jefferson. OBJ was not the problem. Hope we all see that. Yeah. Well. Listen. We just
looks like Justin Jefferson's not going to end up on the Browns.
No, he won't be.
We're
He's not going to play
later. But
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, either way. I mean, yes, what we saw last night. OBJ is still a threat. I mean, he's still a threat. He's still a very gifted individual at the wide receiver position. And you talk about like. The touchdown, pretty easy play. Damn, the guy was playing inside, too, and expecting, the slant route. He was. Brian Griese did a good job of breaking it down. But Odell's a special route runner. And I like the numbers don't go, whoa, but the numbers were good. And the catches were at big moments of the football game. And I think he's still in the process of learning the offense, too. When they get to the point where they could start now feeding him some of those plays that Cooper Kupp always gets, wow, do I think it's going to open up. I think last night was, to me, a point where I went, OBJ's comfortable. Stafford looks comfortable throwing to him, and it looks like he's getting a hold of this offense. And to me, that means watch out, because Stafford, if he continues to get healthy here, he's going to be throwing strikes all over the field. And OBJ, as we saw last night, one-on-one can still get open against anybody in football.
And one thing we're kind of starting to take for granted, and we've barely mentioned his name. We've showed a few highlights. Cooper Kupp.
Oh, it's unreal.
Kind of quietly,
right?
Career-high 13 catches, 123 yards. I crunched the numbers based upon where he currently is with over 1,400 receiving yards. Now, that extra game, I remember when they went to the extra game for this year, one of the talking points was how many single-season records are going to be in danger, grave or otherwise, of falling with that extra game. Well, Calvin Johnson, the single-season receiving yard record of 1964 right now, and I think it's fair to talk about on pace when you only got 4 games left.
Right.
Cooper Kupp on pace for 1947, just 17 yards below the single-season receiving yardage record, and no one has ever had 2,000 receiving yards in a season. And the Rams are going to be conscious of that. They're going to be aware of that. Yeah. There's a little sizzle on top of the substance, and that's going to be a factor down the stretch, I think. Not that they need to try even harder to get Cooper Kupp the ball. It just kind of naturally happens.
Yeah.
But they're going to become aware of the possibility that Cooper Kupp may end up being the single most productive receiver from a yardage standpoint in NFL history.
Definitely. I mean, McVay's going to love to have that notch on his belt. I mean, Stafford will like it too. He's going to go, damn, look at me. I'm the guy that throws to both of these guys.
That's
Calvin
true.
Johnson and him. He's going to be like, all right, let's go get it. It'll say something about me too. Hey, one thing I had moments last night where I went, man, I feel like they're overworking the guy. Like, I really do. And I think that's where OBJ could come into favor a little bit, to take a little pressure off him at times. But it's remarkable. It's a little bit, Mike, I mean, again, it's the same coaching tree, but what LaFleur, McVay, Shanahan all show is the ability to feature their stars. And that's where they're great. I mean, the 49ers, Deebo Samuel, or George Kittle, I mean, come on. The whole game plan seems like just get them the ball in a creative way. We watch every week, we go, well, we don't really know if Green Bay really has a legit number 2 receiver. They just got a bunch of other guys. Doesn't really matter. They draw up all these plays for Devontae Adams. If they get one-on-one, they just go, he's better than your guy. Our quarterback will throw a strike. And Rams and McVay, they got the same thing with Cooper Kupp. They do. They're going to make you defend it and change your game plan to a point where they're just going to keep going to the well until you change, and now they have you compromise somewhere else, and they'll start to strike there. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I love that aspect that they feature a guy like that and make the defense adjust off of that. You got to have something great, and that's great. And they abuse it until you do something crazy, and it's just going to make other parts of their offense great off of it.
Just imagine how many other receivers out there who and you have to have a high degree of confidence in yourself or self-confidence in yourself, as the case may be, to succeed at any level in the NFL, even if you're just barely clinging onto a roster spot. But, think about what a guy like DK Metcalf thinks when he's watching the Rams offense. Or watching any of these offenses where, as you say, they come up with creative ways to let their stars be stars. Right. And here's DK Metcalf wondering, what do I gotta do to
can't get a ball
some
to
of
the
that?
fourth quarter.
How do I get some of that? Yeah. And that's the little thing that maybe puts a chip on a guy's shoulder or a stick up his butt going into the week of practice because he's, thinking to himself, what in the hell?
Yeah, he's jealous.
Look at
mad.
what these other guys are doing. And it's not just jealous. It's like, I can do that.
I'm not being used to my capacity.
Why do I not get to do that? I can do the same thing. I can help everybody. Why am I being held back? I can do what Cooper Kupp does. I can do what Deebo Samuel does.
Yeah.
Why don't I get to do that? It can create real problems.
100%.
That's why when you have a great player, the obligation is to let him play great.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what's the point of investing money and, draft picks and those things if you're not going to capitalize on the player itself once he gets on your football team? We discussed that a lot, right? You look at great teams and you go, well, they usually utilize their greatest assets to the greatest degree to give them the best chance of success. We look at teams that kind of mess up and do stupid things. We always go, well, they're really good right here, but they can't seem to ever, take advantage of that. Why is that? And I do think that's part of, good coaching and understanding that. And, I think we saw that a little bit from the Rams on both sides of the ball last night. They put their guys on both sides, really, whether it was the receivers or Raheem Morris doing a great job of finding little ways to get Aaron Donald one-on-one with either one of those guards for the Arizona Cardinals. It was a mismatch. I mean, again, the stats don't even quantify what Aaron Donald did on that side of the ball. He had a few holding penalties that were big during the game. That doesn't go on the stat sheet, but he, effed the play up. And so that was what was cool to see. And I think we saw a little bit, again, the potential of the Rams that we liked early in the year where we went, ooh, man, when they play good, it looks real good. And last night was one of those nights for sure.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.